So-called Epstein files have been a huge saga in US politics. Today, the administration tried to bring that saga to an end. The FBI and Justice Department say there is no evidence of an Epstein client list, no evidence he blackmailed powerful figures, and no evidence his death was caused by anybody other than himself. They released this video to show he was always alone in his cell. The two men now running the FBI, Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, both entertained alternative theories about Epstein's death before taking office, and it angered their supporters when they said this.
You know a suicide when you see one, and that's what that was.
He killed himself. You want me to? I've seen the whole file.
The Epstein saga became a saga for good reasons. It's not just that it's a salacious conspiracy, although it undoubtedly is. A millionaire financier with friends in very high places whose systematic abuse was covered up and whose justice was curtailed by his suicide in what should have been a maximum security jail. It's no wonder people speculate. But it also gets to the heart of a deeper problem that MAGA conservatives wanted Trump to solve and believe that he would. They don't trust their institutions. They don't believe that the people in charge of the country are honest about their motives and their means. This was Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna, who's overseeing a task force on declassifying federal secrets.
What we found in the last couple of weeks and what's definitely apparent is there's absolutely a war taking place in the intelligence agencies, right? We saw the CIA was reporting that they're worried about their own people leaking secrets to foreign countries. And we were also notified last week that there was a whistleblower that came forward stating that there was evidence being destroyed at the FBI. As soon as the FBI found out President Trump won the election, they started their deep state nonsense. And so I have full faith in Kash Patel and AG Bondi to deliver those files. But I want to be very clear about something. The American people want the truth.
Well, the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, is under increasing pressure for botching what was intended to be an exhibition of the new administration's transparency. First, she told Fox News that Epstein's client list was sitting on her desk. Next, she handed out binders of information already in the public domain to conservative influencers who were visiting the White House, who were duped into claiming the Epstein files had been released. Now the client list that was apparently sitting on her desk now apparently doesn't exist.
I'm gonna cut in real quick here. Do you believe for 1 second, what's coming out of Kash Patel and Dan Bongino's mouth? They don't even look believable, especially Patel. Anyone who's listening to Dan Bongino knows he's lying. Almost every he's just like Donald Trump. Almost everything that comes out of his mouth is a lie. Except the fools who, actually, that cult. Who takes this crap in every day and believes all this stupid stuff. Yeah, that was the most unbelievable, from those two. I don't know if they convinced a 3-year-old child what they said was true. Come on. That was so unconvincing. But let's get back into it.
And lawyer Alina Haber speaking on this show in February.
Incredibly disturbing. We have flight logs, we have information, names that will come out.
Is it going to be shocking?
I don't see how it's not shocking that there were so many individuals that were hidden and kept secret and not been held accountable. Let's talk about the reverse. I believe in accountability. So you have to now go through your process. Now, I won't say they're guilty until they go through their time in court. But again, now it's time for accountability. We have seen for so many years, Piers, in this country, many investigations, subpoenas, testimonies in Congress, et cetera, et cetera. But there's a general frustration with accountability. We take it halfway, we don't take it home. And I really believe that now with Kash and Pam, there will be accountability.
So what happened? Secret names, lists, accountability. This is why the latest developments are likely to satisfy absolutely nobody. It's entirely possible there was never anything more to know, and it was all just used for political expediency. If so, it's not working out to be very expedient. We Brits have a phrase for situations like this. Is it a cock-up or a conspiracy? In this case, it might actually be both. Well, joining me to debate this some more, Jack Posobiec, who's the senior editor of Human Events and one of the influencers who was handed those non-event Epstein files. John Kiriakou, who's a former CIA intelligence officer and whistleblower, host of CIA Declassified on Unified TV. Brian Shapiro, the host of Pushing the Limits. And Midas Touch commentator Adam Mockler. Well, welcome to all of you. Jack, let me start with you. What's happened here? I mean, we were all led down a train of thought that there was going to be all sorts of stuff coming out about this Epstein case, the files, the names, the lists, accountability, and then boom, it's all disappeared.
Yeah, Piers. I mean, this is, as we would say in the military, unsat, completely unsat from Attorney General Pam Bondi. And this line about there being files that are currently under seal in some criminal case, well, then great. Let's go and get those unsealed as soon as possible. Look, I was brought to the White House under the pretense of a series of policy briefings that were going to be held, not just from the AG, but from, we had the vice president came in, the president came in, Bobby Kennedy came in. So we had a rotating series of people from the administration, Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, and then nobody told us prior to this that the Epstein files would be anywhere even on the agenda for that day. And it was really sprung as a surprise to all of us. We get handed these binders, and then before we even have a chance to look into them, we're hauled out actually in front of the cameras that were all there because Prime Minister Keir Starmer was visiting the White House that day. And it just so happened that they were all in front of the West Wing. And by the time that we have the ability to actually go through them, well, lo and behold, we find out that it's all information that was completely already in the public domain. In fact, some of the information that was in the public domain was more extensive than what was given to us on that day. So the whole thing, obviously, I think, as you say, is a cock-up. I hope I'm using that phrase correctly. I'm not entirely familiar with it, but that certainly feels like what happened here. And we don't have the accountability that was spoken of. We don't have the releases that were spoken of. And it's indefensible. It's indefensible that the answers aren't there when so much was promised.
Brian Shapiro, I mean, look, it's perfectly possible. Indeed, it looks increasingly likely that Epstein did indeed just commit suicide. What is not perfectly possible, to my cynical eye about this, is that he was the only person, other than Ghislaine Maxwell, who's been imprisoned, who was ever up to criminal activity on his island and other places. It just stretches credulity. But nobody, it seems, is ever going to be held accountable other than him, who evaded accountability by killing himself, or Ghislaine Maxwell, a woman. So none of these other men who were linked to this are ever going to be even remotely held accountable. It's just disappeared.
Well, what I would say, Piers, first of all, when Haba did your show, where did she get that information from? Where did that come from back in February? I would also say to Pam Bondi, she lied on Fox News, or maybe she was telling the truth. She said she had a list that was on her desk, Piers. Where did that list go? Was she lying? Was that made up? And I'd also say, thirdly, and I know this is something that Jack probably doesn't want to bring up, but the fact of the matter is that Jeffrey Epstein's on audio saying at one point Donald Trump was his best friend. We also know that Donald Trump was on the Epstein flight log 7 times. We learned that in the Maxwell case. So I don't think it's a stretch to say maybe Donald Trump might be somewhere in these files. Maybe. We don't know that for sure. But I know if it was the other way around, and if it was Joe Biden that was best friends with Jeffrey Epstein at one point, that's all Jack and MAGA Republicans would be talking about. I think Donald Trump is on this list, and I think Donald Trump is in these files, and I think the Trump administration is hiding something.
I mean, what is it?
These people are so dishonest. It's a shame. They can't bring themselves to admit that Donald Trump did any of this. I've been watching him for the last 2 or 3 days, just struggling to blame this on everyone else. It's Pam Bondi. I was listening to Glenn Beck this morning. Pam Bondi, she got to go. She's got to go. Who does Pam Bondi work for? Pam Bundy's not making any decisions without her boss wanting her to. Everything she does goes to Donald Trump. They're turning over in their graves. They're twisting round and round, doing everything they can not to blame Donald Trump, not to admit that he's in these files. And this is why this is all being covered up. And then this is why every time these files come up, he's got to distract. He's got to send police to L.A. He's got to drop bombs on Iran. He's got to do something, you know. He's even on TV today trying to get people I can't believe you're talking about Epstein. Yeah, man. They're talking about Epstein. What's so crazy about all of this? This has been running through the conspiracy lines on the right wing for years. I guess somehow they thought because Clinton was in a couple of pictures with Epstein. There's gonna be something about Bill Clinton or somebody like that in there. They just ignored all the millions of pictures of Donald Trump. I mean, anyone with an ounce of sense, any common sense would realize that's a lot more likely that Donald Trump and the shit that comes out of his mouth is going to be associated in a negative way with Epstein than anyone else. All the shit he says about liking his daughter being sexy, and a 10-year-old girl going up the Escalade. Come on, man. These people are such a cult. They're a joke, man. They are a sad joke on this country. But it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. That's all I got for right now, but I'm pretty sure we'll have a lot more on this. Thanks for watching.